Growing up in a dysfunctional or traumatic home can shape every part of your life, your sense of self, your relationships, your ability to trust, and even how you handle stress. If you've ever wondered why you struggle with setting boundaries, maybe you attract emotionally unavailable partners or feel like you have to earn love, the roots lie in your upbringing. But here's the thing, your past doesn't have to equal your future. Your past equals your present. What you do now is what predicts your future. So, understanding what happened, how it affects you, and how to move forward is the key to breaking free from dysfunctional patterns and creating a life filled with real connection, joy, and ease. So, today you'll learn signs to look out for and my 5 steps towards healing and moving forward. So, stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. Hello. Really happy you're here with me today. And as always, today is packed full of information. There are free downloads and links for everybody listening. And in addition to those goodies, if you're a member of my One Love Collective online Patreon community, that's quite a mouthful. We are having so much fun over there. If you're part of that community, you're also getting journaling prompts, a full month of daily affirmations to help you through this, because this is a really tricky one, and this great worksheet I developed to help you heal from dysfunctional or traumatic parenting. So if you want to go deeper, my Patreon community is really the place to do it. And I hope you'll join us over there. But as always, I will make sure I give you incredible value here too. So what does it mean to come from a dysfunctional home? I mean, that's my first question. When I was writing this out, I thought, where do I start? That's where I start. So a dysfunctional family is one where there's sort of a persistent pattern of unhealthy interactions. And that could show up as emotional neglect, controlling behavior, addiction, instability. What else? Oh, physical or sexual abuse, right? Excuse me. There's a lot in there. And I apologize. I have a little frog in my throat today. I'm going to drink some water. So hopefully I won't be coughing into your ear too much today, but I can't guarantee I won't. So some families, I divide families into 2 ways. Some are obviously dysfunctional, think, I don't know, screaming fights, violence, alcoholism, parents who disappear for days, right? Those are really obvious. But I think the majority of people come from more covertly dysfunctional homes, and that is what makes it really hard to always identify yourself, as that this is something you come from. Whenever I share in 12-step meetings, I tell my quote-unquote story. It's what we do a lot in Narcotics Anonymous. We'll share our origin. And I always say, I grew up a perfect girl in a perfect family. That's how I start. Because I had a very covertly dysfunctional home. There doesn't mean that dysfunction was any less real. It doesn't mean there wasn't a ton of it. Doesn't mean I didn't need a ton of therapy. And obviously became a drug addict. So, that's a response at a very young age. So, there's stuff, right? And it's really about, and today, let me be clear, is not going to be about blaming your parents or your caregivers, because we got to get past that. We have to take action. But it is about coming to terms with what's real and what's, kind of not real. And often people think it's real that they come from a really, really good, solid home. I think I've shared it before. I have a, gentleman I work with, and he had a single mom, and dad was nowhere around, and she worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs, depending on the time of year, to keep the family afloat. It was him and 2 siblings. And she did everything she could. She moved them out of like the hood. He grew up in a not safe place. She was working her butt off and she told the kids she loved them all the time. When she was with them, she was kind and compassionate. But she wasn't there much because she was working for the house, for the family. So my client always said to me, oh no, I come from a really loving home. I don't know why I act this way in relationships. He came to me with all these problems. And I was like, it's related to this. Even though your mom was loving, that's not all it takes. You need to feel safe. You need to feel like there's someone there to talk to when you need help. He became, of course, as the oldest sibling, like the parentified adult in the house. He was taking care of his siblings. He was, going grocery shopping, again, things to help the house that had to happen. So it's not, to me, I would not say he had a bad mother at all. I think she was devoted and amazing, but you could still have dysfunction from it because you weren't getting enough support. You were alone a lot. You were on your own. You had to take care of yourself. So you knew there was love, but it was hard to always access. And that becomes dysfunctional. It again doesn't mean, so there's all the more reason not to blame your parent or something. But in my client's heart, he was like, I'm not blaming my mother. She was amazing. We have a really close relationship now. I just love her. She's a great grandmother. I was like, yes, but you think it takes away from all that if you were to say, but she wasn't there much, but physically I got very little time with her growing up. It doesn't. It's a both and. Okay, it's a both and. So depending on your childhood, or you might be saying, well, there was always food on my table or whatever. It might be a good time to go listen to my episode on you might not realize you have unhealed trauma. If this sounds more like you. So again, some are overtly dysfunctional, some are covertly dysfunctional. And maybe your parents never yelled, but maybe they made you feel guilty for having your own opinions, or love felt conditional on how you behaved or what you achieved. So I will say what all dysfunctional families have in common is that they don't provide the emotional safety, the consistency, and the support that children need to develop a strong sense of self-worth and healthy relationships. This is the harder part. Okay. Now, I do want to say a word about the difference between trauma and dysfunction, because there is some there, and I want to be really clear. And again, and dysfunction and trauma often go, of course, hand in hand, but they're not always the same thing. So dysfunction is any unhealthy family dynamic which can lead to poor communication somehow. So excessive criticism, parentification, like I just mentioned, where the kid takes care of the parent or takes on parental duties, or neglect. Neglect can be there. Trauma is what happens when these experiences are extreme. They're deeply distressing. There's abuse, there's abandonment, there's severe emotional neglect, there's cruelty, or living in fear of a parent's reactions. I can't tell you how many clients I have who would, get home and sort of hide until they heard their father or mother come home, because they were waiting to see what kind of mood they'd be in when they walked in the house. And they can tell by the way the front door closed if this was going to be a good night or a bad night, if this was going to be a night to run down the stairs and say hi and I'm so glad you're here, or to stay under the radar as much as you could. And that's not a good way to wake up, to live. That is not healthy for little kids' nervous systems, and all these neural pathways and neural connections start to build, and you really end up with a dysfunctional outcome. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. So you're just here with me. See, I'll come in. I do feel well. I feel good, but I definitely have some little cold I'm fighting or something. So again, I appreciate your love for me, and I'm showing my love for you because I feel good and I'm here. So, okay. So some people grow up in dysfunctional homes, but don't necessarily experience outright trauma. Okay. So I guess that's what I was trying to say with all that. But even in those cases, the lack of stability and the lack of emotional support definitely shapes how you view yourself and your relationships, like this client I just mentioned. So here are my kind of top 5 signs that you grew up in a dysfunctional or traumatic home. Okay. So if you grew up in dysfunction, the signs that often followed you into adulthood, I guess is how I want to say that, are number 1, definitely struggles with trust. So maybe you struggle to let people in, or you assume others will eventually hurt or leave you, right? If your parents were unreliable, critical, or manipulative, it makes sense that you have a hard time trusting other people to show up for you now. Of course, right? So if a friend cancels plans and your first thought isn't, oh, they must be busy, right? That really should be your first thought if it's a friend. But instead, your brain goes to, oh, they don't actually like me. You're likely a person from a dysfunctional household. Or, maybe in a love relationship, you might constantly be looking for signs that your partner is losing interest. They don't love you anymore, even though nothing is wrong, even though that is not what's there. So that's number one. Number two, of course, is difficulty, I'm going to say, setting boundaries. So growing up, you might have been taught, directly or indirectly that your needs didn't matter. So maybe saying no, maybe you got guilt tripped, or if you expressed an opinion, it led to conflict no matter what it was. So as an adult, this can make it hard, of course, to advocate for yourself. So I see this all the time. Like a boss will ask you to work late again. And even though you're exhausted and even though it's outside your hours, you automatically say yes because deep down you feel like you have to. And I see you, you'll be like, oh no, I'll get fired. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with and helped them with their boundaries, and they do not get fired. I literally, maybe one person in the last 10 years, I don't even know. Like, I can't remember the last time. It's so unlikely. It is so unlikely. And by the way, you probably have a lawsuit if they do. if you keep within a boundary and they fire you, yeah, good luck. Maybe you could retire on the lawsuit. I don't know. I'm not saying to be litigious, but you know what I mean? It's just, we're so afraid of things that aren't real a lot of the time. And it just feeds our own insecurities. And we decide that that's the reason why. And that's the reason why I get to be so codependent or not say no or whatever. But trust me, it comes from your childhood. So, and all I can say here is use the keyword boundaries on my website. If you haven't yet, please buy my Boundaries Made Easy book. I mean, you can go through the website and find all that information with the keywords, and you're welcome to it. That's why it's there. But if you want sort of a step-by-step framework for doing this and someone putting it all together and holding your hand through it, if boundaries are an issue for you, I got to recommend my book. I don't know what to say. It's why I wrote it. Okay. Number 3 is people pleasing and overachieving. So again, obviously these all overlap in certain ways, but if love in your home felt conditional, you probably learned to earn it by being good or quiet or successful. And that leads to a lifelong pattern, I promise you, of perfectionism, people pleasing, and overachieving. Because deep down, you still feel like you need to prove your worth every day. And you're likely taking on way too much at home or at work or both, bending over backward to accommodate others, or have trouble saying no, even when it's harming your well-being. Even when it's harming the other person, which it normally does, by the way, because they're not drawing their boundaries, so they push that onto you. It's not helping anyone. It's not creating closeness. It's not creating good productivity or creativity. It's not doing anything but bad things for both of you. Believe it or not, I know. Number 4 is difficulty regulating emotions. So, sometimes I'll ask a client, did your parents ever model healthy ways to handle frustration or sadness? Because it doesn't sound like they did. If not, you probably struggle with emotional regulation by either, bottling up your feelings and being a volcano at some point, or having intense reactions when things don't go as expected. So, a minor inconvenience like, I don't know, your partner forgetting to text back sends you into a spiraling panic. You're angry, neediness, withdrawal, all the things, right? Yeah, it's nutty and crazy, but I'm with you. I love you, and I'm nutty and crazy too. Okay. Number 5 is fear of abandonment or emotional distance. So depending on your childhood, you might either cling too tightly to relationships, that's that fear of abandonment and rejection, or push people away when they get too close, and that's a fear of intimacy. So, and this is, of course, I've talked about 100 times on the podcast. this is directly linked to something called your attachment style. So, and actually, we'll dive into that next. But I also have a podcast called How Your Attachment Style Affects Your Personal Relationships. I mean, an episode, not a whole other podcast. And I'll link to it in the show notes. And of course, any research I talk about or any things I state as facts have research behind it. Any past episodes, if I don't always have the research right there, it's because the past episode has all the research. And all of that is available to you below the video. If you're watching on YouTube, hello, like and subscribe, please. Or leave a lovely comment. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're listening somewhere else, you can go to my website and everything is there on the podcast page or the relationship tips and tools page. Always, always. And yes, I have to repeat this because there's new listeners every week, every time, every episode. You can find it all there. And if you're part of my online One Love Collective, that Patreon community, it's all there together in one place. So you don't have to go hunting around for anything. Everything is in one place. So just to make your life easy. Okay. So let's talk about how dysfunctional, how do I want to say this? Sorry. Let's talk about how dysfunctional parenting affects your attachment styles. Okay. I'm going to go there. So your early relationship with your caregivers shapes how you connect with others as an adult. And this is something that's explained in something called attachment theory. And it shows us why some people thrive in relationships while others struggle with, like everything I just mentioned, trust, intimacy, independence, right? All the things. And let me say, sorry, sometimes I don't know where I'm going. I've done, again, an entire episode on how your attachment style affects your adult relationships, but I'm going to take a minute right now for a quick overview because, because it seems to fit. Because it's in my head right now and I'm doing it. Okay. So secure attachment happens when you grow up with caregivers who are emotionally consistent, they're responsive, and they're supportive. But if your home life was unstable in whatever way, even like my client with the well-meaning mom who did a great job, you might have developed an insecure attachment style. And there's, depending on the research you look at, there's a bunch of them, but I'm just going to talk about 3 broad ones. And then there's I'll talk about anxious attachment right here. I'll talk about avoidant, there's dismissive avoidant, there's all kinds of little subcategories, but I'm just going to give you the big ones. So anxious attachment is really the clingy and fearful of abandonment attachment style. And this comes from inconsistent parenting. Sometimes your caregivers were loving, other times they were maybe emotionally unavailable or dismissive because of this, you learn to just hyper focus on relationships, always worrying about being left out or not being enough. So if this is you probably overanalyze texts from a partner, maybe seek constant reassurance from anybody, or feel devastated by any hint of rejection. Okay. Avoidant attachment, which is the independent but emotionally distant style, often develops when caregivers were dismissive, emotionally cold, or expected too much independence from you. So, I got a bunch of siblings and I'm the youngest by, I think it's 8 years, maybe 7 years from the youngest of those siblings. And so I was very independent, too independent. I think my parents were tired. Obviously, maybe I was a little bit of a mistake. They were dealing with teenagers, right? Or middle schoolers when I'm just little. So they're really not, I'm in elementary school and then all these other siblings are giving them trouble, in those real teen years. And so, they're not focused on me. I'm the easy one. And that's what I became, was the easy one. So, an avoidant attachment style is sort of a natural part of that, shall we say. So you learn at an early age that relying on others was a bad idea. You can't really count on them. They're not there. So now you push people away when they get too close. So if this is you probably avoid those deep emotional conversations. You likely feel suffocated in relationships or struggle maybe to express any kind of vulnerability. I have done so much therapy, people. Rehabs, therapy, walked on hot coals, you name it, I've done it. So I've really worked on this, and it is why I have, so you can change your, to a more secure attachment. But I will tell you, when I'm worried or afraid or sick or just in a bad place, I get very controlling over my environment. I have a really hard time asking for help. It is still my worst thing. You know what I mean? So, but I try to ask for help, and at least I'm self-aware now of the things. And when I get controlling, I'm like, oh, okay, don't be controlling. That's where the mindfulness comes in, that I can, so I can stop the behavior and notice it before it gets too far. And do I do that 100% of the time? No, I do not. I am not a robot. I am not perfect. Welcome to the human race, if this is you. Okay. And then the third insecure attachment style is what's called disorganized attachment. So it's really wanting love, but fearing it. So, and this stems generally from a really chaotic or abusive home where caregivers were both a source of love and deep fear. So again, as a result, you're going to crave intimacy, but you're so afraid of being hurt. So it often leads to just unpredictable, unstable relationship patterns. So if this is you, you might switch between clinginess and withdrawal. You might sabotage relationships or struggle to feel safe with other people. And I don't tell you all this to pigeonhole you. I tell you this because understanding your attachment style isn't about blaming your parents or early caregivers. It's about recognizing old patterns so you can break free from them. So you don't have to blame them. I don't even want you to blame them. They were doing the best with the tools they had at the time. And you might be working on forgiveness from severe abuse. I get it. I do. I understand. And I'm not saying you have to be healed from that all in a row. I am saying I want you to work on that healing because I want you to have a life. They already took enough from you. I don't believe they deserve any more at all. Okay. I get emotional when I talk about stuff. All right. So, you know me, what are the 5 steps to heal and move forward, right? Because I'm always going to give you how to get out. So, and breaking free from this past isn't, again, about blaming your parents or pretending everything was fine as my client. It's about recognizing what shaped you so you can choose, really choose a different path. And healing takes time. Like I said, I've been in therapy for many, many, many years, and I go off and on with therapy. I have to turn off my heater. Hold on. I'm going to hear a little beep. It's a little roasty in here. So healing takes time, but with the right tools, you can absolutely create a life that feels safe, it feels stable, and even filled with love. At the very least, having a lot of love for yourself is absolutely the goal. But when you have that, you will absolutely attract in real love and support. So number 1 is learning to trust yourself. And this is so big. If you struggle with trust, it's because the people who were supposed to be reliable were not in some ways. And when caregivers break trust, whether, again, through neglect, criticism, or some kind of inconsistency, again, even when it's well-meaning, you learn to question your own judgment and instincts. That's what happens. So I want to give you action steps for each kind of piece. So steps to rebuild self-trust. And again, I have an episode on forgiving yourself, on trusting yourself, trusting your gut, all that. I have episodes on all that I'll link. But you do, number 1, I just said it, you need to listen to your gut. So instead of second guessing yourself, start tuning in. Before asking other people for advice, take a moment to check in with your own thoughts and feelings. And this is going to really help you differentiate fear from intuition, from your gut, from trusting it. When you're faced with a decision, you need to ask something like, is this a genuine red flag, or am I afraid because of past, wounds? Okay. I have an episode. It's called, How Do You Know How do you know if you're making the right decision, following your gut? That's what that's called. And I think it's a really good one. Listen to me. It's a really good one because I created it and I'm brilliant. Now, I did a lot of work on that one because it's such I think they're all important, frankly. I do a lot of work on all these. I think you can tell. But I really like that one a lot. I send my private clients to it very often. It's just such an important piece for everyone to have. Okay. The other thing you can do is keep small promises to yourself. You build trust in yourself by following through on your commitments. So number one, stop committing. Just stop saying you're going to do something unless you're absolutely sure you're going to do it and you already have a plan for how you're going to do it. So I don't want to hear, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. I want to hear, I've already called the gym. I made an appointment with a personal trainer for Monday at 10, and I'm going to keep that appointment. That's what you're not going to work out forever. You might not. How many times did I join a gym before I actually started going and using it? Oh my God. 50, 60. I don't know how much money I've spent on, enrolling in a gym or something back in the day, and then I would go once or twice. You really want to just do that one commitment. And then that day consciously say, okay, can I commit to another individual? Can I find, or have I already called my best friend, Lori, and asked her, will you walk with me for 10 minutes every night? Can we start on Wednesday? These are the kind of commitments I want you to make. Small, one thing, drinking one extra glass of water a day or one glass of water a day. That's it. Stop making the huge commitments. Start because you don't follow through. Most people don't. You don't. And then you distrust yourself. Like your word means nothing to you. The most important person it should mean something to. So start being able to trust what you say to yourself. Okay. And those small wins really build self-reliance. They build that. I also have my clients sometimes journal their decision-making process. So I have them write down situations where they doubted themselves and what the outcome was. So you doubted this, and everybody has 100 of these. And you could do it right now in your head. Name a decision where you doubted yourself and then what the outcome was. Every time you'll be like, oh, I knew better. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I was thinking when I did that was probably a bad idea. You know what I mean? Wait, I got to shift how I'm sitting. I'm old, people. My butt I got enough padding back there. I don't know why my butt gets uncomfortable, but it does. Okay. You don't want to talk about my butt, do you? I don't want to talk about my butt. So why am I? I don't really know. All right. So let's keep going. So do that. Look at past situations and when you doubted yourself and what the outcome was, and you'll notice, or at least you'll notice patterns so that you can learn to trust your instincts more. Okay. Really good. The second thing I would say to do is set and hold boundaries. If you grew up in a home where boundaries weren't respected or were non-existent, you probably struggle with saying no or asserting yourself, or your needs. So you probably learned that people pleasing, that pleasing others kept you safe, or that setting limits made you selfish. That's the word I would hear a lot, that how selfish I was when I said no to something. And I have an entire episode on healthy selfishness that, again, I will link to. Really important. The research shows the opposite. And if it's what always kills me is that when someone was calling me selfish, they were actually being selfish. Anybody who calls you selfish, anybody in your life, they are the ones being selfish. Oh, you're so selfish, you won't show up at the thing. Or you're so selfish, you won't come over one time to help me with something, they are being selfish. They are not figuring out another way to do the thing. They are only having it on you. And that is so unfair and so unreasonable. Here in the United States, we have something called TaskRabbit. I love them. So, hire somebody maybe, or ask a different person besides me, or, I just can't do this. And that's the end of the story. Or I'm not going to do this. That's the end. So I repeat this over and over. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out. Those are walls. Walls are when you want people out. Boundaries are needed to keep people in. That's what you need. You need boundaries to keep people in. Otherwise, you end up cutting them off. You end up having really poor this sort of black and white, you're either doing too much or nothing. I cut them off. I talk about this all in the book. I have episodes on this. It's really, really important that you figure this out. So your boundaries are about teaching other people how to treat you so you can feel safe and close instead of resentful and frustrated with that person. How many people in your life who ask for too much do you really not like? Right? And so you feel resentful, you're frustrated, you're angry at them. How is that a close relationship? How is you doing the thing they're asking making you closer? You're just worried about them getting mad at you. Well, for what though? Who cares? You already don't like them. You already are angry at them. You are so desperate for someone to love you in any way, even though this is not love. It's what you learned in your childhood that shows up as love, is doing for others, because that was always expected of you, no doubt. It's not love. It's not love. You're not doing it lovingly. You're not doing the thing lovingly, maybe occasionally, but not usually. You're resentful and angry. You're frustrated. You're tired of this crap. That's not love. So stop taking action from that fear place. And again, here are some small steps you can take today. I always want to give you, action steps you can do today. So I would say first is, again, starting small. If setting boundaries feels terrifying, begin with something low risk, right? Maybe tell a friend, you know what? I really can't text during work hours anymore. And so I will not be answering any texts from this to this. Okay? Just start there. Start with something that if that feels like too much, start even lower. I think the example I always give is at my waxing. Now we all know I get waxed. Again, too much information maybe today, but hey, you get all of me, okay? So when I get waxed, they're often trying to upsell me some products, and I just, so I learned to really say no to that. Just no. I should talk about that now. Because it's such a low stakes thing that's easier. And then I would say with that, so practice saying no without explaining. You do not owe anyone a detailed justification for your boundaries. And when you do explain or justify, it just gives the other person ammunition to punch holes in your boundary. No is a complete sentence, and you really need to think of it like that. So when you give, if I said, oh no, I don't need those today. I already have a lot. They might say something like, I already have some at home. They might think, well, how much do you have? Because it's on sale right now. And you could do it this way. They start engaging you in the sell. Or if I say, I don't know if it really works for me. It's like, well, try it again this way. Use this product. You should have showered first. You should have not showered first, whatever. They'll come back. And when you do it with family, it's really bad. No, I can't come on Sunday. The kids have to nap. And then your mother-in-law is like, oh, they can nap here. You know what I mean? When you stop explaining yourself. No is a complete sentence. They will come at you. They will say like, well, why not? And you say, I'm not. It's just no. Well, what do you mean? What good excuse do you think you have? I don't need an excuse. I'm telling, there is not that we're having. I'm not going to continue this conversation if you won't take no for an answer. And that's it. And then walk away or do whatever you have to do. And you should expect pushback, but don't let it derail you. People just think, oh, Abby gave me this tool. It's going to go great. No, it's not. It is for you if you stick to it, but other people are not going to think it's great. They love that you just jump for and help. And they love that you don't say no. And they love at the salon that you always buy a ton of extra stuff before you leave because you feel, I can't tell you how many clients I have who say they feel guilty if they don't buy what was recommended. They feel weird. Other people's comfort is not your responsibility. You can only know that you come from an aligned place where you're loving and clear, loving to yourself. Thank you. That's it. Oh, well, my hairstyle, here's what I heard recently. My hairstylist makes more money. They get like a percentage if they sell, or they have to sell even at the salon. Otherwise, they can't keep their chair there. And I love this person and I want to keep going. I'm like, you got to stop. You got to stop. If that's how nasty this place is, then I would just say to the person, here's my phone number. I'm giving it to you. If they ever fire you, please call me. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. You can say, my allegiance is to you, not to this place. You can just tell them. I know. Kind of simple, right? But for some reason, this client I had was buying all this crap every time. It's like that she never, sometimes she would just literally take it and go give it away. And if you want to do that, if you feel like, oh, I can give to a local shelter, or I could, I'd love to buy these products and then my hairdresser works out and then I'm giving, and it feels only loving and good to you, then wonderful. Do that. Make a decision. Every time I get my haircut, I'll buy one product, right? And I'll go donate it. Good for you. Great. But that's probably not why you're doing it. You're doing it because you feel uncomfortable, because you've been asked something. You feel like you have to say yes. So, and again, expect pushback. If people are used to you being a pushover, they will resist, not just at first, at second and third. So you have to stay firm, right? And get out of the head space of making other people comfortable. Again, not your responsibility. Am I up to 3? I think so. The third thing you could do is rewire your attachment style. Really important. So your attachment style, again, is not a life sentence. If your upbringing wired you for anxiety or avoidance or being disorganized in your attachment, you can shift towards secure attachment with, again, conscious effort, taking action. So I'm going to give you I just explained how I've been doing it, but here are some action steps you can start today. Again, go back and listen to the episodes and all that. And I'll give it let me give something tell you what, I'll give you an example for each one. How's that for love? I know, I'm here for you. So if you're anxiously attached, I would say to practice self-soothing before seeking any external reassurance. Okay? That is the number one thing I would do. Every time you go to ask someone's opinion or what do you think, or they ask you where you'd like to go to dinner and you say, well, where do you want to go? Every time, stop. Maybe in your head say, I'm safe. I'm enough. I'm loved. Even when I'm alone, I am okay, right? No matter what, just sit for yourself first and take your own counsel first, and then it's okay to ask other people. Or state your opinion first, and don't always wait to see what someone else's opinion is before you give yours, because you know why you're doing that. It's because you'll change your opinion depending on what they say. We got to stop. You can also remind yourself that a delay in a response doesn't mean rejection, right? Again, that's the cognitive reframing. Not every unanswered text is a sign of abandonment. So you have to, tell yourself something different about the situation. I would also say to start setting emotional boundaries. You don't need to overfunction in relationships to be loved. So make that part of your boundaries too, with yourself. Boundaries with yourself, that's really what all the boundaries are. Remember, it's not up to other people to hold your boundaries. It's up to you. So, yeah. Okay. If you're avoidantly attached, let's do that one. I want you to challenge yourself to open up even just a little. So practice saying something, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but I want to work through this with you. That's a good one. I'm having a hard time. This is really uncomfortable for me. Set up the conversation. So please, treat me as lovingly and carefully as you can. This is hard. That's what I've had to do over the years. You know what I mean, though? You got to kind of put yourself out there. Be a little vulnerable first. I have a really good friend. Actually, she sent a text today. She's getting her hip replaced. And this woman is such a badass. I love her so much. And she's getting, it's a knee replacement. Sorry, not a hip replacement. It's a knee replacement. And she's going to be out for a while. And she actually sent a text with no prodding saying, here's the date of my surgery. I might need some extra help. I mean, talk about putting on your big girl pants. This woman never asks for anything from anyone. She will hide any sickness she has, anything. I mean, she'll go to the grave. So I was so happy. I told her, and you know what I told her? I texted back. I said, thank you. And she sent it to Gary and I. I said, thank you for trusting us enough to ask, to just let us know. You haven't even asked for anything yet, but thank you for trusting us enough to even let us know that this might be hard, so that we now can offer things. Hey, I know what I'm going to be doing. I marked down her surgery in my calendar. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm bringing food over. What do you want? That's what I'm going to do, because that's a beautiful way to be. But anyway, and I also want you to let people show up for you. When someone offers support, accept it. Don't shut them out. Don't shut them down. I'm okay. I'm fine. That's always the joke that's going to be written on my tombstone, I'm fine. I did it myself. No, oh, don't worry, I'll do it myself. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, I know. So, and then I would also say to recognize that this was big for me, that independent isn't the same as emotional avoidance. I'm going to say that again. This was big for me. I had a therapist say this to me years ago. Independence isn't the same as emotional avoidance, because I do like being very independent. I was also emotionally avoiding people, right? And I was pretending, I was doing that under the guise of being independent. Nope, because you can be both. So it's okay to need and rely on others sometimes, like my friend, right? She's very self-reliant, very independent. But it's okay sometimes when things are hard to say, hey, can I have a little help here? And then you're allowing in intimacy, you're building trust. You're building so many good things that you need for a relationship. So I really want you to think about it. And then if you have disorganized attachment, I would say to work on identifying safe and unsafe relationships. That's probably the biggest thing I do with my clients who have a disorganized attachment, because they generally assume that all closeness is dangerous in some way. And, you have to really take a look at different relationships. If you notice yourself pulling away when things feel too good, take a pause, ask yourself, am I actually in danger, or am I reacting from old hurt or old trauma? Good moment. And I will say that I think therapy is great for everybody, but it can be particularly helpful for this kind of attachment style, because the mix of fear and longing can really be so deeply ingrained that you might need some extra help. And I will also say that healing these attachment problems doesn't happen overnight. As I said, it happens like I feel like I would do some work, really do some work and kind of level up a little bit, and then I would plateau for a while. Sometimes I'd even regress a little, and then I would do the work again, because you get tired. You can't keep doing it all the time. And then I would get, and I'd get my energy back, and I would do another, and I would plateau. I would level up and plateau again. And again, even if you, as long as you take 5 steps forward, even if you take 2 steps back, it's okay. So don't, and I used to take a couple steps back and see like, oh my God, nothing's working. Oh my gosh, this is all, I can't even seem to do this. But again, and this is actually my friend, my wife, my Rhonda, who pointed it out one time. She said, you always do this. You throw out like kind of the baby with the bathwater. You say it's all not working when just some things aren't. And she named like 5 things I had improved. And I was like, oh, okay. So give yourself a moment, or you can't have Rhonda because I have her, but find yourself a ride or die, or whoever, or a therapist, or somebody who's going to give you honest feedback. Right. I'm also thinking, of course, if you're in the Patreon community and this is hard for you, we do live Q&As in the Patreon community if you're at a tier 2 or 3. And this is a great thing to bring there, to really talk about, to flesh out, to ask questions back and forth with me. Just saying, we're doing a lot of good stuff over there. All right. So again, just know that there's mindful effort, right? And you can rewire how you connect with others. But you're going to have to work on it. And I just did an episode recently on emotional healings. It was like the part 2. The first one on emotional healing, I did self-regulation. And then the episode right after, I talked about techniques for mastering mindfulness and self-acceptance or compassion. So I would definitely look at that. If you have not downloaded my mindfulness starter kit yet, which is free, I seriously don't know what you're doing. Okay. And as I always say, it's going to put you on my Love Bites list, which is that you'll get my love letter twice a month. And I don't sell anything. I swear. And that's why most people who get that open it, because they know I'm not selling to them. I have no ulterior motive with it except to offer you some inspiration for the week with like a short little story or something to make you think differently. Most people find it super valuable, and that's all I'm trying to do. Okay. So if you do want to pay for the love letter, you can get it every week, and it's $1.99 a month. So if you really love it, I would try to Love Bites. If you really love it, then get it every week. It's, again, these are all ways to have kind of therapy or putting you in the right direction as cheaply as I can do it. Okay. That's what I'm always thinking. All right. Number 4 is, I hope I'm at 4, is to, I think, work with a therapist or a healing modality. So if you grew up in a home where emotional needs weren't met, I will say that therapy could be life-changing. Okay. It's why I became one. Let's be real. A good therapist can help you untangle childhood hurts. They can help you recognize dysfunctional patterns and build healthier ways of relating to yourself, and to other people. But some people have really bad thoughts about therapy, or they've had bad experiences, which I'm so sorry. And I'll just remind everyone, there's a lot of bad therapists out there. There are, but you've also been to medical doctors who weren't good. But you keep seeking out medical doctors, right? You don't just go, I'm never going to a medical doctor again. Usually, some of you do, but most of you just try a different doctor, or, realize what you should be looking for or not looking for. And I would say that's true for therapy too. If you can access it, that of course there's people that aren't great. So try to find someone who is. It's like dating, I think. You're probably not going to fall in love on your first date. I mean, it happens, but not usually. So number 1, give a therapist at least 2 sessions to try. See if you feel it or not, but you don't have to go more than 2 if you don't like that person, or if you just don't feel the connection. And by the way, you don't have to come for a final session. If they say, well, come one more time so we can end well, I don't like that. I know I said it. Therapists out there are going to come with the hate. If they're good therapists, they won't. They might come with some feedback that they make in a positive way, but not with hate. I don't like it because it creates this power dynamic that I don't think is good. It's like if you were having a bad dating relationship with someone and they said, well, you should come back for a final date so we can work this out, or try to work it out, or see what the problem is, or end well, or whatever. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I offer that someone, would you like to come again? And is there anything you want to tell me? I would say if the therapist really wants that they shouldn't charge you for it. I said it. I know I said it. I think if a therapist really wants that, and I have good friends who are therapists who hate that I say this. Okay. So and I love them. And I think they're amazing therapists. But I just think sometimes it's like an old school thing. Anyway, so if therapy isn't directly available, there are a lot of other healing paths you should be looking into. Number 1 is there's a lot of books on healing attachment wounds, right? There's a book called Attached by, I think it's Amir Levine. I'll make sure I put it in the notes in all the places. It's a great book. I apologize. I don't always remember. I've sometimes read things a long time ago, but there is the granddaddy of them all, The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I don't know if I always say his name right, who's brilliant and amazing and all the things. I will also say, though, that book, if you've had real trauma, that book sometimes can be traumatizing. Make sure you do some work first. Like in even regular therapy, I just want to say this. We don't go right to trauma work. It's like getting some good foundation. It's starting to understand yourself. You want to build into the trauma work, because if you just jump in there with no tools, it's not always so good. Okay. So I've seen people get really traumatized by reading that book. If you're one of them, I see you. You've been in my practice. So I often don't recommend that book until they've done some work. Do you know what I mean? Then I'll be like, hey, try this book. Support groups are another excellent way to heal. If, adult children of alcoholics, maybe, or AA or NA, CODA, because ACOA, by the way, is good even if your parents weren't alcoholic, if they had mental health problems or anything, or just severe dysfunction. There can be a really good place to get support. It's really for dysfunctional families kind of thing. Codependence Anonymous, CODA, is great. You can go to your local mosque, church, temple, anywhere that offers support groups. Try it out. Another favorite for me, I tell people, ask your insurance company if groups are available, because I'll tell you, groups are cheaper for insurance companies than giving you private therapy all the time. So they often do a really good job in creating really good groups that have a licensed person running them. And I love a group format. I think it's great. I think you can feel not alone. I think you can really find your people. I think you can also hear what other people say works for them, not just a therapist. I really think it's a great place to be. I will say that Kaiser here on the West Coast, I have insurance with them. They do a really good job with groups. They really do, because they hate referring you for individual therapy. I mean, it's to save money, but it doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't mean it's not helpful. I would try that. Or, of course, online healing communities of any kind. You know, having a group that gets it is so powerful. And of course, I'm going to give a shout out again to my online Patreon community. I mean, that's a great place. So anywhere, if regular therapy is out of your reach, all of these are really good options. I will also say somatic, or what are called alternative forms of healing, are also excellent. If you've experienced trauma, body-based healing, like breath work, EMDR, biofeedback, neurofeedback, yoga therapy, can all be incredible. And I really can't, they can all help release kind of the stored emotional pain. And I can't recommend EMDR or bio or neurofeedback highly enough. The research is unbelievable. I talk about these in I'll link to it in an alternative therapy episode I mentioned that I did. I send so many of my clients for EMDR. I think it's brilliant. And biofeedback, neurofeedback, unbelievable. And I'll also link, I had an episode a long time ago with Dr. Eric Pepper. Dr. Pepper, come on, who doesn't want to listen to that? Who's amazing. He's local. I refer to him all the time. He writes books. He works at a university. He's brilliant. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, frankly. So you could follow he has like a Pepper blog. You could follow him. You could buy his books. You can listen to that episode, get an idea. He talks about breath work there, all kinds of things. But I mean, they truly heal trauma and dysfunctional patterns because they actually change the patterns in your brain. Okay? They actually change the neural connections in your brain. Hard to beat. Okay? Sometimes regular therapy will take years to do that. I've had clients go to 2 or 3 EMDR sessions and really have a complete turnaround. It's amazing. So again, highly recommend. You need to talk and make sure it's a good fit for you, because I can't say that every kind of trauma this would fit with, right? But for many people, it's just incredible. Okay. I did an episode called 3 Holistic Approaches to Your Mental Health. That's, again, I'll link to, and Pepper's was like how changing your breathing and posture can change your life. They're all really good. Okay. Again, I've got tons of free resources here. You need to do the work. I can't hold your hand all the way through it. I'm putting it out there over and over again. I say a lot of the same things over and over again to help you really understand what's the most important, and hence like mindfulness. I mean, there's certain things that you just have to do. And that will really change your life. And I want you to change your life. I love you. You're here. Like, let's do this thing, really. But you can't listen to an episode a week of this, or, videos on YouTube Shorts or something and expect to be all better. It's not going to happen. You have to do the work. You can't just go to a trainer once a week or something at the gym and just, you think you're going to be fit and healthy. You have to do the stuff every day, right? Every day, what you do, how you eat, how you move, what you do. It's even more important than that once a week time you're in the gym, right? Yes. Number 5, give yourself the love you didn't get. And I would say that this is a big one, because healing isn't just about understanding your past. It's about actively giving yourself the love, patience, and kindness you didn't get as a kid. I've done, again, entire episodes on cultivating self-love, on self-love and compassion, on not just compassion, but self-love too. But again, I'll give you some tips today to help you get started, because who loves you? Who loves you? Say it right now. Abby does. Abby loves you. That's right. Where do I want to start? Let me think. Okay. So I want to be cogent. What I'm asking is for you is really to start a new, more intimate relationship with yourself. That's what I'm asking you to do. There you go. Right there. I want to say it in a clear way. And self-love really starts with getting to know yourself. That's the place it starts. So think of getting to know yourself now. Think of it like starting a new relationship, right? Do your best. You're going to start with a clean slate. You're going to have open curiosity, as I hope you do when you're meeting others for the first time. There are many ways to get to know yourself better. So you could ask yourself or ask others who you trust. So don't ask alcoholic Aunt, Juanita. Don't ask her. Ask others you trust for some honest feedback about your strengths and your limitations. And you want to ask questions to further your understanding. Listen like you're wrong. Allow in their ideas with, again, open curiosity. And listen without shame or judgment, please. I'm begging you. You're so mean to yourself. God, things I hear you say, like, what are you doing? You can decide later if there's anything you want to change or not. It's just because you're listening doesn't mean you have to do everything they said. You might disagree with a lot of it. That's okay. But I would say if you're asking, you should ask more than one person, and you should see anything that overlaps in their feedback. And I would ask people from different realms of your life, like someone at your work or at school, maybe a close family member, a sibling or a parent, friends. I would take people from different corners of your life. If you see a therapist, ask them. And I would see what all feels like your top priorities. All right. I also want you to focus on daily mindfulness, which I keep talking about. Again, get that mindfulness starter kit, listen to episodes I have on mindfulness, just use that keyword and you will find a ton. Another thing I have clients do is start a journaling practice with, again, the idea is of starting a new relationship with yourself. Okay. So you want to start with prompts that help you understand how you think about things or what you think about things. So like, being in a romantic relationship means, I like a lot to start the sentence. I don't like the prompts that are like, tell me about a time you felt misunderstood. Like, that's fine. And that is fine. You can do that. But I like it even better when you say, when I feel misunderstood, if I'm misunderstood, it means, right? I'm misunderstood because, you see the difference? You can feel it, can't you? You can feel how it goes deeper into your self-awareness, into your mode of needing to think about yourself. Because if you say, I'm misunderstood because other people are stupid, then of course you have to ask yourself, well, is everybody stupid? I get misunderstood a lot. What does that mean? Maybe it means the people you hang out with, the people you've attracted with this insecure energy are, of course, consistently making you feel bad or misunderstood or taking things out of context or not, or purposefully misunderstanding you, purposefully not listening. Do you know what I mean? And so there's other things you'll get to that are so much more valuable than just explaining a time you felt misunderstood. Okay. It could be like, I feel most secure when, I feel safest when, I feel joy when, I feel confused when, right? Love means blah, blah, blah. Do you see what it means? See what you do there? Being a parent means, being a sister means, I don't care, right? So, and definitely focus on reparenting yourself, right? Imagine what you needed to hear as a kid. Start saying those things to yourself now. I love you. You are safe. You are enough. I think you're amazing. And I did an entire episode on reparenting yourself because I a lot of times when I'm doing episodes, I go, oh, now I need reparenting. Now I need this. Now I need that. So I already have done one on reparenting that will be out probably in a few weeks from this one. So, or maybe the next week after this one, maybe we'll change around the thing, but be on the lookout for that because you can get a whole thing on reparenting. Okay. And I did a ton of extras for that one, like a ton, because it's so important. Yeah, I think maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. So, and overall, right, you're going to talk to yourself with kindness. If your inner voice is critical or harsh, ask yourself, would I say this to a friend? And if not, or to my kid, or to my mom, or whoever. And if not, change it. And you have to prioritize yourself without guilt. So, and this is really hard. If you grew up putting other people first, taking care of yourself is probably going to feel selfish. Again, there's that word. And people will tell you you're being selfish, right? Now that you're doing this, and it's not. So that could be taking a long bath instead of calling back your mom. That could be booking a massage or just saying no to something. No, I don't want to go out this Thursday. I don't want to set up for the party, whatever. You got to start choosing yourself more often. Okay. And I want to say this, that I did an episode on what self-care really is or means. And I want you to listen to that because a lot of times people go, yeah, I have to focus on self-care. And I will tell you, every single woman I say that to immediately goes, great. Now I've got more on my to-do list. I know I'm supposed to do this in the mornings. I know I'm supposed to exercise. I know I'm supposed to be mindful. Like that sucks. So I lay out really well in that episode what it really means because it's not that. Okay. It should not feel like something to do on your to-do list. It should not. Okay. I would also say to let yourself rest. You don't have to earn love or relaxation. Give yourself permission to do nothing without guilt. So I have a beautiful, wonderful client I worked with. I haven't seen her in a while, which is good, right? Because she's doing well. But she never sat down during meals. They have a bunch of kids, and she's just a really devoted, wonderful mom and wife and all the things. But she never sat down, and so and it bugged people because she wasn't present during the meal, right? She was always like, "I'll get that. I'm up. With 6, 8, 10 people at the table, guess what? You're gonna get up a lot if you choose that. So she had to have her butt in a seat for 10 minutes without guilt. And I would talk to her. I was like, let the feelings come up and then put them away and really try to connect instead with yourself. If you were sitting alone for 10 minutes on the couch, but she would feel guilty sitting on the couch. If for 10 minutes, she would feel guilty. Like, nope, you got to get used to this. You have to sit. And her kids, she told her kids I said, you have to tell your kids and your husband the homework because they were so happy about it. They loved me that week. And they would say something if she started to get up during the meal. Like, no, you can't get up. You have to sit. So, yeah, I know. So, and if you haven't read or whatever, listen to my episode on healthy selfishness again, you've got to go back to that. Okay. And one of my favorites is to create a new family of choice. And I love telling people this. A lot of people don't know this. You know that quote, blood is thicker than water? That's not a quote. Matter of fact, the actual quote says the opposite. Blood is not thicker than water. The actual quote is, the full quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. I'm going to say that again so you get it. The blood of the covenant, the relationships you make and promise later. Okay. So maybe to your partner, if you don't have to just be married for this, but you know what I mean? A covenant meaning like anything that this is my best friend. We have a covenant between the two of us. Okay. It's beautiful. Is thicker than the water of the womb, is thicker than the family you come from. I know. That's the original quote. So the friends you choose, the people you choose to have in your life now, the family you choose are really more important than your blood relations. And I know some of you are going to come for me. You're like, no, they're not. You're terrible and nobody's more important than your parents or whatever. It's just not true. It's just not true. Everyone needs to deserve a place in your life as an adult. Everyone. And whatever that is, they just have to act. And again, that's up to you and your boundaries and holding your boundaries. It's not up to them. But I want you to feel close to your parents, even if they're tough. Even if, my mom was a narcissist. We've talked about this many times. She had true personality disorder. That personality disorder, she was the real thing. And I ended up having a very peaceful relationship with her towards the end of her life. And I'm so grateful. So grateful because I finally started holding my boundaries instead of expecting her to hold them as I had my whole life, which of course she never did because narcissists don't. So if your biological family isn't healthy or supportive, you need to build your own. Surround yourself with people who see you, who respect you, and love you as you are. Because once I had those things, once I found my Rhonda, once I found my good friends, once I found, you know what I mean? And made my own family. I really, it gave me the strength to do the work to draw boundaries with other people because I wasn't afraid of, it's true. I wasn't so afraid of being alone. I wasn't so afraid that I would have nobody because I had people. I had people who loved me for me. I had people with no strings attached. I had lots of people. And I wish it was just me being strong enough for me. I wish I could say that. Like I had myself, so I could do it. I didn't have those tools at the time. I think now I do. I hope I do. But I understand if you don't. I didn't. And I really, with the love and care people showed me, really let me know what I should be expecting, what should be happening. This is where I feel best. So really important. All right. So we need to end. But here's my final thoughts. Final thoughts. Abby's final thoughts. If you grew up in dysfunction, it's not your fault. Okay? But healing, that is fully your responsibility. Okay? That is in your hands. And it's only in your hands, by the way. If you're waiting for someone else for closure or an apology or whatever, forget it. Now you're putting your power into someone else's hands. You have to stop that. You have to break that pattern. Breaking free from unhealthy patterns doesn't mean that you erase the past. I want to be clear. It means choosing to not repeat it. It means recognizing your old hurts, working through them, and building a life that you feel safe and happy in. That's what it means. And I will really tell you that the best part for me is you don't have to do it perfectly. You know I'm a perfectionist. You know I want to, but you don't have to because healing isn't linear. It's not on a line. And setbacks don't mean you're failing, just like I mentioned before, where I was like, oh, I haven't done any work. It's like, yes, you have. Yes, there's been some setbacks, but you've done all these other things. Every step you take, I don't care how small it is a step toward love. It's a step towards stability. It's a step towards the connection you really deserve and want. And that's what I want you to focus. Okay. Whew. I think that's everything. Well, it's not everything. I could always keep talking, but I stop myself. So I love and adore you. I believe you are so worthy of this transformation I'm asking you to make. I believe there are enough resources for you if you do the work. I believe all those things. So please don't use anything as an excuse not to do the work. Don't, again, take small, tiny steps. Even just the doing of it and completing them gives you the courage and the good feelings inside to take the next one. And they build on each other, I swear, I promise. All right. I love you so much. Thank you for being here with me. You add so much joy to my life. I'm so appreciative. All right. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you real soon.